Greetings, friends and family and students. I would like to do a movement analysis of the Bach Prelude. It's one of the little preludes, one of the 18 little preludes, BWV 927. And let's get started so that we can see what some of the tricky passages might be. Okay, let's get started talking about that. The first thing I would like to talk about, and I know most people will have heard of rotation and shaping and in and out, and that these things are used, and there's a lot of stuff that's doing this, and for that we need single rotation, and that's pretty obvious. And of course there has to be some shaping. One thing right off the bat that might be kind of different is that instead of doing the under and the over shapes in this piece, what's really required is just up and down. So I'm going to show that. So if you did do an over and an under shape with this, you would wind up taking your thumb too far away from the position that it's going to have to return to. So let's try that and see what it looks like. So instead, this up and down transfers the weight nicely without getting you misaligned. That's what we use throughout most of the piece, even here in measure 8. And I can hold this up to the camera. This might be a place where a lot of people would think of doing an under shape. But we can see right away how it's getting us out of alignment. So is probably a more practical solution. And besides that, the right hand is also playing 16th notes, and the coordination between them, what we call cueing, works better when both hands are doing the same motion. So that takes care of a lot of the shaping. There is a place where I would use over and under shapes here in measure 13 and 14. And that's because the thumb is not making a huge leap to get back to its original position. It's mostly stepwise movement. So just to kind of narrate that, this is under. And one thing that's really important is that by under, we kind of mean flat. If you're a person like me who's prone to collapsing the wrist, it's important not to go too far below, and maybe this is better seen from the side. So if I'm doing an under shape, instead of this, I want to do kind of flat and then higher. think you probably can see the whole thing better from there. So this is under, this is over, this is under, this is over, but it immediately, it pretty much just lasts for 2 notes and then goes back under again. The last one, because it's not turning back around, is actually kind of more of a diagonal shape. So it's going, hard to get it all in the camera, going up like this, like a ski slope. And then you stay tall for the chord. So that's about all for the shaping. I talked a little bit about cueing between the hands. So on beats 2 and 4 at the beginning, I think the hands can come down together. And that should help you define the pulse. And then also bringing the arm higher to navigate larger intervals. So, and what did I mean by that? So let's change the camera angle there. I think there wasn't a measure number with it, so I think that what I meant is when you get to measure 2, you have 2 on the B flat, but then you need to get the 4th finger over to the E because you have F after that. So what you're doing is you're bringing the arm higher there. And turning it a little bit to the side. The fingers open farther this way than they do dorsally. So you can get, this is not a 90-degree angle, but this, it almost is. So this is what I tend to use when I'm trying to navigate larger intervals, and letting the fingers abduct passively instead of trying to spread them by using the hand muscles allows also for a wider abduction. So I just, by using weight and allowing the keys to spread the fingers, so I open it to a certain extent, and then I allow the piano to do the rest. So then, in and out and rotation towards the thumb for dyads. Yes, and that's true. So for these dyads, and as a matter of fact, for any sort of a chord or an octave or anything that involves more than one note, you always want to balance towards the thumb. So even at the end, when you're playing the thumb and then you're playing the dyads, it always comes down in this way instead of this way. So, okay. Then, so what I also do is I have a more pronounced movement for the dyads that are on the beat. So in measure 1, even on the 4th beat. So you can see that it's kind of an up, down, up. So you can see it in the right hand too. I should mention a couple of things that I probably left off of the list. Finger 4 on the black key instead of finger 5. Finger 5 is going to put the other fingers too far inside of the black key area, where you have less leverage. You have more leverage here and less leverage as you get closer to the balance rail. It works like a seesaw. So you're putting the 4th finger on the B flat instead of the 5th finger. And then also we have 1 and 2 on the E and the G, and then on beat 3 of measure 4, we have the second inversion F major chord. So One of them is active and one of them is automatic. Dorothy made a distinction between those two things, that you can have a note that sends you and then a note where you're landing. It's always the responsibility of a note before a leap. You couldn't see that one. It's always the responsibility of a note before a leap to get you where you're going. So no different here. This one sent here. And she used to talk about pluck, but she discovered that for people that had a history of grabbing the keys or over curling, that word would trigger them. And so she just talked about an awareness at the fingertip, and then opening the hand and allowing it to just land on the next chord or interval or note. So that's that. In and out and rotation towards the thumb. Okay, so I did not talk about the in and out for the dyads. So when you're playing the thumb, you're further in on the key than you are when you're playing other fingers, especially 2, 3, and 4. So that's pretty much all I have to say about that. I already talked about the rotation towards the thumb. Walking hand and arm to prepare the thumb crossing at measure 4. And that's true. That's one of the hardest places in the piece. And so I'm going to just elevate this a little bit. So what you have is this. And then from here, you have to get all the way down here. And everybody is doing it like that. You can't see my shoulder, but let's try that. So that would be an example of how not to send your arm. So instead, if you can have kind of an active fingertip, and this one is active, this one is automatic. So in context, and I don't connect the C to the F perfectly at all. I go left and then I go right. I don't want to end up with the thumb under the hand. This across movement is called walking hand and arm. So, okay. Making sure I cover everything here. Neutral elbow in measures 5 and 6. The elbow, in other words, don't let the elbow drift towards 5. So let's try that. I could do this and let it come out to 5, and then I would have to lunge for that thumb. And I've seen students do that, so it's not unheard of. So you can just leave it in the same place for all of them. And as you're going from one chord to the next, you bring your arm and also your torso over laterally so that you're not... I've seen this too. So don't leave your elbow behind. Bring the whole thing with. And then same goes for measure 8 in the left hand. So we can try that. We could have this. But instead, down, up, down, up. So then, avoid twists by going in on the note before the thumb. Measure 8. So what you're doing is you're going in, especially on the thumb, before you play the pinky here. So instead of, and yes, I've seen that. So that's another point. We don't want to position one of these notes without also having the alignment set up for the thumb. So the thumb and the fifth finger both. I'm just making sure, yes, the recording is still on. Very good. Yes, I've had trouble with that. Elbow position in measures 5 and 6 for the ascending scale. So let's have a look at that. So measures 5 and 6 are here. at the bottom of the page, and there's just a plain F major scale. Scales are not the easiest things. So starting with the long fingers in the black key area, you want to make sure that you have a preparatory movement for the 5, and then out, out, and I came too far out on 3, so what I would really want to do there is come right about to this crease where the white key meets the black key, and then instead of doing something like this, and I've seen this, I'm going to come out and go up and forward with my arm, and then play the B flat that way. Let's try that from the other angle so you can see how that's adjusting the height. Sheila says it's kind of out, forward, and up, but that would be a not good thing to tell somebody, OFU. So there you go. And then now doing it the other way is this, and then you're squished and you have no possibility of crossing the other fingers over the thumb. So you always want to feel like you're balanced forward, especially when you come out. And then we want to land on the tip of the thumb. The arm does settle into the thumb, but it does not collapse, because then we have this. So this is a good position to easily cross the 3rd finger over in, and then coming. So the rotation, and then we still leave the elbow out to the left, and I don't think I really showed the elbow position, so I'll do that. So in an ascending scale, you want to give the hand an advantage in getting the 3rd finger crossed. If you're in this position, it's really a strain, but if you're here, it's just a matter of turning a little bit and then you're there. So so this is the angle. Then gradually, I bring the elbow closer to the body because I'm about to cross in the other direction. Forward, out and forward. I should mention, because not everybody knows these terms, out means you're changing your key spot. Forward means you're keeping the same key spot, but you're just going forward. So that's why this is an out and an up and a forward. When you bring your arm forward, it actually raises the level of the arm and helps you get to the black keys, which are higher off the ground than the white keys are. So there's a lot of in and out for this scale. As you go to the B flat, you want to make sure that you've released all the other fingers into the black key area. And then for the thumb, when you go to the 3, you're making a large out because of the disparity between the lengths of the thumb and the 3rd finger. Sorry. Then out for 3, out 4 for 2, and that's another thing, is that 2 before the thumb is not always in. Quite often it's out. Now here, this is another oof, but then you continue higher for the thumb crossing. When you're doing a thumb crossing descending, you want the arm to go out and forward before the thumb plays. So let's try this passage. So quite a bit taller, and then landing forward on the thumb. Okay, so that's that. grouping from the larger number of notes to the smaller number of notes. And that happens in measure 15. Here we are in measure 15. So we have dyads followed by single notes. And what you want to do, and I'm going to change camera again, I know I do that a lot, but what you want to do is plan your in and out in accordance with these groups of larger and smaller notes. So instead of this, we're going to move out now. Out and over. Staying out. We're basically just staying out. But that's different from, you can see we're moving out on these notes instead of the thumb, which would be weird. So grouping, and also again the balancing towards the thumb. And then tilting. So there are some places, but I think I showed the tilting already. The first example of it, depending on the fingering you're using, because a different fingering will necessitate a different shape or approach. This is measure 2. If I do 5 and 5, 3, 2, I really need the fingers to be open, and I need to be on the side like this. But if you want, you can do this, and I think it's probably easier and doesn't involve as much doing this with the thumb. So sometimes you have to try these things and look in the camera to find out whether they're working or not before you start practicing. One aspect of how motion affects sound you can find in measure 10 when you have these eighth notes. Sorry. You can see how I'm bringing the arm down on every beat, so 3 and 4 and 1, but you can also do this. So every half note, which I kind of like better. It's a lot to think about, but if you practice it slowly, it does make playing it, the actual playing of it, easier, and eventually it becomes habit, and you don't have to think about it anywhere near as much. And besides that, you won't get hurt playing it, so yay. All right, everybody. So thank you for watching, and everyone have a great Thanksgiving. Thanks.